Hi, I'm Coach Amber, and welcome to the Meet RX Success Story podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, Coach Huw, and he will be telling us about his story with the meat-based diet. Welcome, Huw.
Hi there. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you, Huw. So tell us, what was your life like prior to starting a meat-based diet? Were you having any health issues, weight issues, or anything like that going on in your life?
Yeah. Well, my life before carnivore is long because I'm in my 50s now, so quite a few decades. I've been carnivore for 4 years now, so a long time. The main one of the main things I guess about pre-carnivore is that I was very addicted to carbs as a lifelong sportsman, playing sport every single day. Right through the 70s, 80s and 90s, you know, the received wisdom was always just fuel it with carbs, eat more carbs. And I would go to sleep thinking about my breakfast, and I would finish my breakfast and think about my lunch and after training, and just be on this constant cycle of eating carbs all the time. Ever since I was a child, that was the deal. I wasn't overweight. I was playing sport every single day, more or less. You know, I had bags of energy because I ate all the time, but it was something that I couldn't do without. I couldn't ever go for more than, you know, a couple of hours without eating and not feeling like I really absolutely had to eat. That's the main thing about, you know, that sort of condenses 3 or 4 decades of eating. When I was little, my mother and my grandmother, who were the two people who provided food for me, were always on diets. And in those days, that meant eating margarine, not butter. That meant having skimmed milk, not full fat milk. That meant avoiding red meat. That meant eating things like lentils, lots of grapefruit, you know, all that stuff. So I was brought up, and my siblings, in an environment where, you know, we were pushed to have margarine and to eat tuna and lentils and to avoid red meat. I don't think I had a steak in my life until I was in my 20s, you know, and Amber, you're from Texas, which I believe is steak country. So that probably is, it sounds like a hell to you. But yeah, my parents avoided red meat, and we had a Sunday roast chicken and sausages through the week, little things like bacon and that sort of thing, fish fingers, lots. And then the 70s, when I was kind of mainly growing up, it was the big era of convenience food. So we were fed things like instant mashed potato that you added boiling water to, desserts that you know, mixed powder from powder, all that kind of stuff. You know, well-meaning parents, but these are the things that I grew up with. And then the other, possibly one of the other major things was when I left home to go to university, I decided it would be really cool to be a vegetarian. And so I became a vegetarian, and in effect a vegan, because I shared a house with some of my students that I shared with were vegans. So if we ate together, which we did most of the week, then I was eating their food. So I was eating vegan food and trying to play my sports all the time. And again, stuck in this constant cycle of needing to eat pretty soon after finishing my last meal, and feeling panicky and desperate if there wasn't, you know, there wasn't going to be any food around. The thing that cured me of vegetarianism was living in France. So I did my degree in French, and so I had to go and live in France for a year, which was I didn't really realize, but in the 80s, vegetarianism and France didn't really know each other very well. So I was fed at school where I was working every single day with things like ox tongue. I remember that. And offal from calves and liver, as well as stews and a glass of red wine, which I found very sophisticated in this little French school that I was living in. And I came back from my year in France a lot leaner, more muscular, with a great tan, and didn't really put that down to the fact that I'd gone from eating, you know, lentils and soy and all that rubbish, to eating, you know, really healthy, high nutrient meat and animal products. So I didn't really put two and two together. So I lost my sort of super leanness a little bit in the ensuing years as that happened. But at least that was the end of my vegetarianism, because I felt pretty good on my French diet. And I didn't go too far back. But then I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you like spend time with someone, go out with someone, live with someone, you know, you have to meet in the middle with regards to diet. And so when I was, one girlfriend that I was with for a long time after graduating, she didn't really like eating meat. She didn't think it was the right thing to do. So we were living together, and you know, we erred in favor of her eating patterns, which was just like every meal was a salad, maybe with chickpeas in or tuna, you know. And that was how I ate in those days. Yeah.
Well, I have two responses. Number one, yes, not having meat in Texas would in fact be hell.
Yeah.
And number two, carb addiction is absolutely real.
Yeah.
And it's one of the hardest addictions to break. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so Huw, let's talk a little bit about how you implemented the carnivore diet once you started. What were you eating? What's a typical day like? Did you have any transitional issues? Do you include dairy? Do you drink coffee? Anything you want to talk about?
Sure. So, well, I went through the phases that I think lots of people go through. So I started to learn. So I'm a level 3 triathlon coach. That's one of the sort of strings to my bow, and I worked as a coach educator. So bear in mind, I used to have to educate coaches in the nutrition side of triathlon. And at the time, I was towing the party line. The party line was eat, you know, carbs and whole grains and that sort of thing. I was at the same time just beginning to become aware that grains were potentially bad for you. Who knew? And that lots of carbs were potentially bad for you. So I was in a difficult position because I was coaching athletes and helping to run courses for coaches, where in both instances we'd be advocating eating a high carbohydrate diet, where that was when I was starting to realize that carbs were potentially a bad thing, you know. So that caused a lot of problems in my head. I was trying to work out, can I carry on doing this? So it was one of the reasons why I stopped being a coach educator, was that I really found it difficult. There were a couple of other things, but I really found it difficult to sort of tell coaches to tell their athletes to go high carb when I was learning that it was a bad thing. So I started cutting carbs. Then I learned about paleo diet and started doing that. I've always been someone who's willing to experiment with food. So, you know, these things were just fun experiments for me. Paleo, then I learned about keto, which was, you know, the usual. I think keto is a nightmare for many, many people, because suddenly you go from a diet where you probably have less leafy greens, maybe, and a mix of sort of meat and some carbs, to very high leafy greens. And you know, it just makes you feel, I just think it makes you feel rubbish. So I went through keto, and from there I transitioned into carnivore. And I took a very clear decision that I would do what I called zero carb at the time, because I knew that I was not pure carnivore. So I was a relaxed carnivore, lots of cheese, quite a few sausages, which I have a weakness for. The food that I feed my kids: sausages, bacon. And then, so that was early 2017. And then I gave up coffee and gave up dairy pretty much the same time. And so I'd say I've been really strict for a couple of years with a bit of a lapse. Okay. The coffee thing was really a big thing for me, because when my mum was pregnant with me, she revealed to me about, I don't know, 2 years ago. So she's in her 80s now. So she'd kept this for all that time. She'd always said, you know, when I was pregnant with you, I drank coffee, you know, quite freely. But I don't know why. I asked her how much she drank when she was carrying me, and she said 22 cups a day. 22 cups a day for the whole of her pregnancy, of filter coffee, not instant. And she said she didn't know why. She didn't do it with my elder brother, and she didn't do it with my younger sister. She did it with me. And we discovered that when she was breastfeeding me, that if she hadn't drunk coffee to prime the system, that I would be screaming and wriggling and, you know, kicking. And if she downed a couple of cups of coffee and it started to come through in the milk, that I would be calm and happy and a sunny, beautiful baby. So do you know what? I was born addicted to coffee, and that is true. That is true. And some of my earliest memories involve getting instant coffee and putting it in a mug and putting sugar on top, and then my mum pouring hot milk on it and me going, bedtime drink. So for me to give up coffee in my early 50s, I think I gave it up mid 50s, you know, after a lifetime of coffeeness, was a really big thing for me. It was massive, and I think it has helped. It's helped me deal with the other aspects of transitioning really well, because just as when you're addicted to carbs, you can't get it out of your head, and you're always looking for the next hit. It's the same with caffeine. So to be free of those addictions, whether it's carbs or of any addiction, I think any dependence, any really strong attachment, helps the other stuff. So
awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of coffee. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. So did you notice any kind of a transitional issue when you started eating more meat and taking out more and more plants and etc.?
Only good things to begin with. I think some people do get, like, for example, a very loose bowel when the fat content goes really high. But I just guess that in the first few months, maybe my fat content wasn't so high. I was maybe eating, I didn't really know about this at the time, but I didn't really have that issue. Sometimes later on, like more recently, when I've tried to play with the fat and protein contents, then you notice things happening. But do you know what? I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I think the long time on low carb and keto probably helped. Yeah.
I
No.
would guess so. I know I didn't have any transitional issues, and I kind of did the same thing. It was kind of a gradual kind of going through all the steps. So yeah, I totally get that. Okay, so let's get to the good part. Let's hear about the improvements. What did you notice once you started eliminating more plants and eating more meat? What were the good improvements that you noticed? And was there anything that you found surprising?
Right. So going back to my youth, I injured my back really badly when I was 18, and lived with quite considerable amounts of pain, what I would call my secret pain, because I played sport every day. I carried on as much as I could. I tried not to talk to people about it. I didn't really go and see anyone about it, and just got on with stuff. And so from age 18 to, into my 40s, so 30 years, easily, I was in pain every day. And I also had a lot of neck pain. When I met my partner, I was unable, I was in so much pain that I was unable to sleep for most of the time, most of the nights. The slightest movement in bed would just wake me up, and I'd be really, really, really in a bad way, mentally and physically. And I don't even know why I had neck pain. It didn't seem to, there was no trauma, there was nothing that seemed to kick it off. There must have been something, but nothing that I was aware of. So, and that happened, that was like about 20 years ago. So I had my back pain and my neck pain, my pains, my attachments, they're almost attachments maybe. And I kind of, lived with them like sort of bad friends sort of thing. I felt a certain dependence on them. They were part of my identity. And I didn't mind when I got injured, like I injured my knee, or if I injured my hamstring, all the stuff I would get from playing sports or training. I didn't mind those at all, because they just seemed to add to the, so that's the picture of me sort of riddled with inflammation, eating carbs all the time, structural issues in my back and neck. And when I really moved away from the plant-based food and went really strictly carnivore, to my amazement, my 30 odd years of pain just seemed to dissolve away. And my back is great and my neck is great for all things considered. And it's not really, it's not a dramatic story, because I made sure that pain didn't affect my day-to-day life. So like some people you meet who may have some kind of, I have a client who is a stage 4 cancer client, and a person, she's stage 4 cancer, and you just you'd never know to meet her. She would never talk about it, and she's fit and well, and it's just what she knows, and what, if you know, and it was the same for me. I would never sort of say, oh, I can't do that, I've got a bad back, I've got a painful back, or I can't do this, my neck hurts too much. I would just blot it out, shut it out, and just get on. So it was quite a change for me to find it all slipping away like that. It was a big change. So that would be the massive thing. I had other injuries as well. I had a rotator cuff injury that wouldn't go away, a ligament injury, my right knee, the MCL, wouldn't go away, left ankle, all those. Oh, I had tendonitis in both elbows. Just niggly things that just wouldn't go away, and they've all gone away.
That's great. And what about your food addiction issue, your carb addiction? Talk just a little bit about the improvement there and what that feels like.
It's such a massive relief to understand, to live each day knowing that you're not beholden to that thing. It's the biggest relief. It's the same with the coffee. Do you know what? I don't think the coffee, when I gave it up, was having a massive effect on me. It didn't really wind me up. It didn't really calm me down. I didn't drink a ton of it, but it's knowing that you don't have to find a cup of coffee when you're out with the family, or find a baguette, or a croissant or something like that. And it's just that sense of peace and the calmness and the knowledge that you're your own person. Isn't that the best thing? You're not beholden, you're not dependent. Isn't that the best thing? You're just you can get on with your own thoughts and your own stuff, and you don't have to worry. It's amazing. It sounds silly, I think. I try and explain it to other people. People know that I've been drinking coffee all my life, and I say I've not drunk coffee for a year and a bit now, and oh my God, why would you do that? You only drank 2 cups a day. I was only drinking 2 cups a day by that stage. it's not about the coffee. It's not about the coffee. It's about you and how you live. And so with the carbs, you know, you are free. You are free, and you're free of that evil addiction. And just as a psychological level, it means you can focus on more clearly on when you want to eat. Do you want to eat twice a day, once a day, or 3 times a day, or once every other day? You're free. Your body will allow you to find its own level. And that's really precious, I think.
I could not agree with you more. There is nothing that tastes good enough to be worth losing that freedom. And until you experience it, it is hard to explain, but
Really.
freedom is everything. It is. And to have that monkey off your back, yeehaw. Seriously. Okay, well, so Huw, you are a MeatRx coach. So tell us, first of all, what benefit do you see as being part of the MeatRx community, being a member there? And also go ahead and get into your coaching philosophy. What would somebody expect when they got you as a coach?
Okay, thanks. Well, the MeatRx, it's just a great movement, isn't it? And so it's a sane, organized movement to advocate meat eating at a macro level for regenerative agriculture, at a micro level for each of the benefit of each and every one of us, to get public health better. You know, it's win-win. There's no downside, I think, to what MeatRx is trying to achieve. So just on the big global level, I'm so happy to be part of that, because I work as a coach, and I deal with my clients' health and fitness and wellness, and that's something that's dear to me. It's really close to my heart. I deal with people every day to try and make their situations better. So to be part of a bigger movement that is doing that macro hands, then that feels great. The other thing I would say about it, it wasn't the first platform for meat that I came across. The first one was called Principia Carnivora on Facebook. And after a while of sort of finding out about, this was when I wanted to go carnivore, I think. And then people were mentioning Dr. ShawnBaker, and after a while I found one of his videos. I find his videos very motivating. And as someone who trains every day, it's especially good to see him, you know, lifting 50-kilogram medicine balls or whatever, you know, that, you know, I resonate with that. That resonates with me. But yes, the motivation, I think one of the things about carnivore, for most of us anyway, so certainly, you know, the way I was brought up and the messages that were implanted in my brain is that even now, after many, many years, there's sometimes a little ghostly voice, possibly whispering that maybe there's something about vegetables or bread that should be okay. And 99% of the time it's not there, but every now and again it does whisper. And it's always great to have someone reminding you that we are obligate hypercarnivores. We are supposed to eat meat. Our metabolism is optimized for meat. All those great things, you know, because it's so far against the narrative. The narrative is so strong. It's pushed by so many powerful people. It is rammed down our throats. It's rammed down our children's throats still, and it is potent and it is insidious. And anything that, you know, just keeps you on the straight and narrow, like MeatRx does, has to be a great thing. So yeah, nothing but good things to say about MeatRx. My coaching philosophy. So same as if I'm coaching a client in my normal daily life, is I kind of expect people to do the basics, the simple things well. That's what I like. I want just to set up a decent system a decent process, and not worry too much about the goals, but to focus on what your next step is, and how you're going to do it to the best of your ability, whether that's, you know, one press up, push up, you know, or running a kilometer, or taking one meal in the day where you have no carbs. You know, just do that one thing to the best of your ability, give yourself a pat on the back, and then move on to the next thing. So I like to keep things simple. I like to make my clients be persistent and patient, and do the good things really well, do the basics really well, and then good things will happen. And then we can get onto the complicated stuff when it's time.
Perfect. Love it. That's great. So, hey, y'all, if you're looking for a carnivore coach, go check out Huw. His information will be below the video, so no worries. And Huw, thank you so very much for joining us and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me, Amber. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day. Bye, Huw.
Cheers. Bye-bye.